Hello Fashion Creative, today I'm going to be showing you how you can draft this shoulder dart bustier on a pattern. My name is Justina and you're welcome to my channel. So the first thing you want to do is to have your pattern paper ready and label the center front, which will be cut on fold. The next thing you want to do is to indicate your starting point, and like my usual practice, I take 1 inch off from the top edge in order to have enough room for my sewing allowance. So from this point now, you want to impute your half length measurements for your front pattern. For mine is 15.5. I added about 1 inch for seam allowance, so I'm just going to indicate this point and draw out a horizontal line. After doing this, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to impute my vertical measurement, and that is my shoulder to nipple, which is about 10.5 inches, and my shoulder to underbust, which is 13 inches. I went ahead to indicate this particular measurements on another part in order to have a straight line when I'm done drawing my vertical lines. So I connected this point together with a vertical line, after which I went on to label so that I don't get confused while working. I would suggest you also do same. So I went on to label the second line as my underbust, which is my shoulder to underbust, and the first line as my bust point or bust line. The next thing you want to do is to impute your shoulder measurement, okay? So the top line now is going to be my shoulder line. This is where I'll be imputing my measurement, and my shoulder measurement is 14 divided by 2, that is 7 inches. Now after that, I also went on to indicate my neck width. Depending on your preference, you can impute anything. I used 3 for mine, and for my depth, I made use of 5 inches. Just connected it to give me something like straight, something curved rather. So normally you're going to draw your armhole line, but because this is a shoulder dart bustier, we're not going to be drawing the line. You want to measure the distance between the neck width to your shoulder measurement. For mine, I'm left with 4 inches. Remember, we took out 3. You're going to be dividing that by 2 and then indicate that point. I also went on to my waist region and I imputed my bust span, which is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to be imputing this on my waistline, which is the end line, on my under bust line. And for the bust line, instead of the 3.5, I'm adding 0.5 inch extra to make it 4 inches. Please take notes. This is really important. So I'm also going to go ahead to connect the 2 lines, the under bust and the waistline, to have a straight line, then a slant line from the bust point to the under bust, like so. So now from that 2 inch point, not my 7 inch shoulder measurement, but from the 2 inch point, I'm going to be connecting that line, as you can see me do. So I'm going to be taking 2 inches. You could do 2.5, but I'm okay with 2 inches for my bust here, for my darts. Okay, now you're going to be making use of your curved parts from the other bust to your bust point to connect together, as you can see me do. So as you can see, it's bringing out the shape of that curved part, right? So the next thing you want to do is, remember we took 2 inches from the waistline, the under bust and the bust. Now we're going to be adding that same 2 inches, okay? We'll be taking it on the shoulder line too. So it means instead of my 7 inches now, I'll have to add another 2 inches to my shoulder line to make it 9 inches. Why? Because I'm going to be taking 2 inches away. Okay, so after adding 2 inches to my shoulder line, I'm having 9 inches, and from that 9 inches I'm going to be coming down to draw my armhole line. I hope you understand this. Remember, I'm not going to be drawing my armhole line on that 7 inch point I first of all indicated. I'm drawing it on my 9 inches line, as you can see. So I went on to the chest line measurement to also indicate my 9 inches. And my chest line is about 7.5 inches. So as you can see, I'm also going down to this armhole line to divide it into 2 equal halves. And from the middle part, I'm going to be going in, since this is a front pattern, I'm going to be going in by 0.5 inches. Normally, I'm going to do 0.75 inches, but because I'm trying to sew an armless outfit, I'm going to be going out by just 0.5 inches. So after which I connected my armhole together by indicating my bust measurement on my chest line. And my bust measurement is about 36 inches divided by 4. That gives me 9 inches. I added 2 inch extra for my allowance, giving me a total of 11 inches. I also went on to my waistline. My waist is 7 inches, and I'm adding that 2 inch that is taken from the dart to it. Then I added another 2 extra inch for my sewing allowance. I hope you understand. So now I'm going to be connecting those points to the first part, as you can see me do. So far, at this point, all you need to do is to just add sewing allowance for your pattern, especially on the shoulder parts. Now I forgot to slant my shoulder, and this is what I'm just doing. Just go down by 1 inch from your armhole line, as you can see me do, and connect it to your neck width. After which I added about 0.5 inch sewing allowance at the top, and now I know I don't have to add sewing allowance at the top, at the bottom, and at the side, because I already added all the sewing allowance I need on this particular pattern. So this is for the front pattern, and just look at the way I'm going to be cutting through this. I would like you to pay attention because we are not yet done. So this is just me cutting out the neckline, and when I go to these points, just follow me. The shaded part is going to be cut off. Okay, now remember that we've not cut out that 2 inches for the shoulder, that right? So that 2 inches, look at the way I'm indicating it on the second part of this pattern. Then I'm just going to connect this directly to the bust point and just cut it out. You can actually do this before you cut out, but at times, I don't know, I just prefer doing this after I cut out so I don't get confused. Now, I would also advise you don't use your straight part to connect it so as not to have pointed edges. And that is why I indicated that first part with the, yes, with a straight ruler. You might have a sharp edge. So it's better you use the curved part of your pattern master to cut this to have that particular, bustier shape. So fam, that's just it for the front pattern, and this is the back pattern. All you need to do, this is just going to be a normal back pattern, okay? And you can change the neckline depending on you. So this is just the normal 1 inch we normally take to indicate a starting point. Then you indicate your chest line. My chest line is 7.5 inches, same as the front. And then I also went on to indicate my waist measurement for the back. Not my waist, my half length rather, for the back pattern. So I also connected this by drawing an horizontal line, and after doing that, I'm going to be going on from my center back to indicate my zipper allowance. So I took about 2 inches, or 1.5 rather, 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance, and then I connected this with a straight line to indicate that this is going to be for my zipper part. I also went ahead to label, as you can see. So from this particular zipper allowance point, I'm going to be imputing my 7 inch for my shoulder measurement. Then I went on to impute that same measurement on my chest line so that I can create my armhole line. So from that point I went on to determine, I took 1 inch rather for my slants and went on to determine the middle part of this line. I also went on to indicate my 3 inches for my neck width, and for my neck depth I went, I think, about 5.5 inches because I wanted to have a slant, like a V-shape neck line at the back. So from this point I indicated I had to slant my neck line, as you can see, from my shoulder to my armhole. Then I also went on to indicate my bust measurement, which is about 9 inches. Then instead of 2 inches like front, I ended up adding 1.5 because my pattern paper was not enough. But when I was cutting on fabric, I added back that 5, that is 0.5 inches to make it 2 inches. I also went on to indicate my bust span, which is 3.5 inches from the zipper part, and took about 0.5 inch on both sides to give me 1 inch for my dart. So the next thing you want to do now is to impute your waist measurement. Mine is 7 inches plus the 1 inch for my dart, 8 inches, then plus the 1.5 inch. Okay, I was able to have 2 inches here, so I just indicated this like so. So the next thing you want to do now is to connect your armhole parts, your armhole measurement together to form your armhole. And as you can see, I did not go in by anything because I told you I'm creating an armless. So the next thing I went on to do was to add about 0.5 inch on my shoulder line, and then looking at the lower part, okay, on this zipper line, for my waist, I went in by 0.5 inches so that I'm going to be able to avoid any form of zip bulges. This is just to ensure that I have a proper fit on my back because our back is not straight, and hence we need to always follow the shape of our body to have the best out of the outfit. So this is just me here cutting through, and that is all you need to do to be able to get this pattern. I'm going to be using this to recreate an outfit in my next video.